स्वामी नारायण भगवानी जय तथा अनंत अनादि मुक्तोनी जय. A humble prayer in their feet and lotus feet of our Guru, Anadi Muktraj Param Pujya Narayan Mama and Leela Masi, to augment this assembly with their divinity and grace, and to enhance our knowledge and guidance towards them. Last week, we talked about soul, Atmanishtha, and touched upon 24 elements. There were also some questions and some suggestions. So today, we'll digress from our flow and talk about caste system first, because it seemed like there was some interest in talking about it more. After that, we will continue with our conversation on soul, body, and mind. Following the soul, body, and mind conversation next week, we will talk about what is liberation and why liberation. And at that time, we will incorporate Vishal Bhai's suggestion and cover why worship at all. To maintain continuity moving forward, I would like to suggest that whenever there are major topics like the caste system, we take them into a separate interaction. So as soon as we have 2 or 3 such topics, we probably set up a separate session. And Vishal Bhai, this is just a suggestion, so that we have continuity in a given session on the topics that we are discussing. But just for today, because we'll learn along the way as to what will work the best for us, just for today, we'll digress and talk about caste system and then move back to our main conversation on soul, body, and mind. The other thing is, because we were not able to leave any room for Q&A last week and we ran overtime, this time I think we should be done in about 45 minutes. And there is a logical break at that time. But if we are not able to cover everything in 45 minutes, I'll still pause at 45 minutes so that we leave room for any further conversation or discussion.
Punita Ben, I think, because when we are doing such an important understanding series and being it Sunday, I think if we run over time, that is not should not be a concern for everyone. And, and after that, these recordings will be available for people who have to leave for, so I think we should continue the flow, as much time you need, actually. That's what my suggestion is.
Okay. All right. But I also wanted to respect everybody's Sunday morning. So, all right. So let's get started. So what we'll do today is move a little bit away from the number that includes a given number. So I'll give an example. Say we pick a number 5, and a range from 0 to 10 includes number 5, and a range from -10 to 20 also includes number 5, and a range from 4 to 100 also includes the number 5. So all we need to do is pick a range that includes a given number, and our given number is number 50, 50. Since we don't have an interactive WebEx, we cannot share what everyone's thinking. But think of a range in your mind that includes number 50. We will pause for 10 seconds and then share experiences that I've had when I've run this at other places. So let's pause for 10 seconds first so that everyone gets a chance to pick a range. All right. So most of us, almost 80 to 90%, and this includes me as well when I learned about this the first time, pick the range anywhere between 0 to 100. If we pick the range outside of 0 to 100, we are amongst the remaining 10 to 20% of the population. As part of my job, I have to lead change in the organization. And in the sessions when I'm bringing everybody on board the change, we play the same game with my team and my executives, and every single time, most of the people pick a range from 0 to 100. So why is that? Why don't we look at the big picture and pick a range from negative infinity to positive infinity? Or for that matter, from negative 10,000 to 10,000. That also includes the number 50. The reason is, and actually there are two reasons. First, human beings always tend to think close to home and comfort zone than looking at a broader perspective. And second, we want to be accurate and correct all the time. And because of these two reasons, most of the people don't pick a wide range. They pick a range close to the number. And that's exactly what happens with a lot of our belief system and a lot of our thinking. And the same goes with the perspective on the caste system. So let's do this today. Let's step out of that range of 0 to 100 and think infinity to infinity, or take a broad perspective on caste system. It bothers me that India's caste system is so talked about all over the world. The caste system existed in every culture, not just Hinduism. The problem is that India has taken a guideline for building a structure in the society as something that is written in stone. So for example, and those on WebEx, I have some slides up there. If you're not on WebEx, don't worry, I'll be reading to those slides anyways. But for example, the Europeans, the Hispanic, the Japanese, everybody had a caste system. So in Europe, at the top was the Pope or the Church. For the longest time, the Church ruled a lot of Europe. Then there are monarchs, followed by the nobles, then the knights and the vassals, followed by merchants, farmers and craftsmen, followed by peasants and serfs. There was a similar system in Japan where there was an emperor at the top, followed by the shoguns, followed by the daimyos, then the samurais, then the peasants, then the chonins. And I knew that there was caste system elsewhere, but I did not create these slides. I borrowed them from internet. You Google on caste system in Europe and you'll find a lot of information around this. I've included some links here as well for those who are interested. We can look up these links, right? Now, these cultures probably did not call it the caste system. They called it classification of the society. But irrespective of what you call it, it is creating that distinction in different classes of the society. So the caste system or the classification of the society has been around in all the cultures all around the world and is not limited to Hinduism or India. Now, if one looks at these classes closely, it becomes evident that these classes were similar. At the top were the rulers and the nobles and the educated ones. The second level were the protectors. Third level was the merchants and the tradespeople, and the fourth level was the remaining. It is a very similar structure across all cultures. And since the similar classes existed all over the world, there seems to be some method to madness as this crossed the boundaries of cultures and nations. And maybe there was a single source of their creation, isn't it? Some Hindu deities like the Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh and Vairaj Purush have claimed to have created a caste system in some of the Purans and the scriptures. So what is this caste system actually? Now this reminds me of a story that my mom used to tell me. Now I think by this time people know my mom used to tell me a lot of stories. And one of the stories that she used to tell me was that when the world was made, human beings really did not know how to live. And they went to Lord Shiv to ask for guidance. So Lord Shiv was busy in his meditation. So the prime disciple of Lord Shiv, Nandi, was at the gates of Kailash, and human beings asked Nandi that, what should we do? How should we live our day-to-day life? We don't know when to eat. We don't know when to do what. So Nandi said, fine, I'll take your message to Lord Shiv and come back with an answer. So Nandi goes away for 2-3 days, finds Lord Shiv and talks to him and says, Lord Shiv, human beings have this problem. And Lord Shiv says, well, tell them that Tron var nai and ek var khai, meaning bathe 3 times a day and eat once a day. And along the way, while Nandi was repetitively, remembering the answer, he switched it by mistake, and he came back and told the human beings that Lord Shiva said that you bathe once a day and eat thrice a day, and that's how our diet system was formed. And I've always wondered what would have happened if we bathed 3 times a day. Much more laundry and much more water. But anyways, that was just a story. So what I want to bring about is that when the creation was formed, the human beings were so ignorant that they really didn't know what to do with the days that they were given and the life that was given to them. So the caste system was probably formed to provide a framework for the society. Initially, during the early days of creation, there was a need to guide humans into a structure and help them understand what they're naturally good at. In management, we are taught to recognize our strengths and leverage them. A lot of executives are asked to read the book Leadership by Strengths, and a lot of them struggle with it. Caste system is a framework that helps one understand one's strengths or orientation. Some have strengths in learning, science, and education, some in protecting others and warfare, some in trade and commerce, and some in service. Scientists have recently discovered that there are genes related to things like leadership skills and convincing skills. There's a genetic code for that. So somewhere in the system of creation, our orientation was built into our genes. And maybe it was carried forward from one generation to the other. And the system was designed to help us understand at a high level what we are naturally good at, what we are naturally capable of in a given body or birth. Doing anything different than our natural disposition would take a lot more effort, but it is not impossible. There are exceptions everywhere. It's just a little more harder. However, over the years, the genetic code is all mixed up, and those early principles no longer hold. Other cultures have moved on, and we do not see caste system anywhere else now. It's more or less gone. But India has either stayed in that old mind frame, or even worse, has moved backwards. In fact, what has happened is that with the strong belief about one's caste from generation to generation, it has become a built-in part of the ecosystem and cling to us as a sanskar. Sanskar here does not mean cultural values. We'll talk a little bit about sanskar in the later part today. But there is an example from Lord Swaminarayan's lifetime where there was a lower caste boy, and Sriji Maharaj asked him to say 100 times that I am a soul and not a lower caste person. So he said that 100 times, and then after that Sriji Maharaj asked him again, who are you? And he said, I am a lower caste person. So it has become ingrained in our sanskar. In past 50 years, in India, it has been a lot of political hype as well. There is truth to it, I'm not denying it, but some of it is hype as well. So before I move on, I wanted to share one example, one incident from Anadi Muktraj Param Pujya Narayan Mama's life, and Binduben, you and the Vidyanagar Satsang Mandal would remember this. Narayan Mama used to come to Vadtal on Poonam, and then whenever he would have time, he would come to Vidyanagar and usually visit Bipin Bhai Sada's place. And in India, we did not have the culture of using disposable glasses. So whatever is available in the household will all be taken out to, give water to satsangis who have come along. And if there are more than the number of utensils or glasses in the household, then you serve as many as you can, you wash the glasses again, and you serve again. And people were being offered water in all different glasses. I think there are about 50, 60 people there. And Naran Mama was specifically offered a steel glass, because there was a belief that the spiritually elevated ones should drink out of steel glasses. And Naran Mama he explained it in a very nice way. He said the crystal glass or the glass, the transparent one, is actually more cleaner than the steel glass, but it is just a belief that steel glass is cleaner. And he explained that what happens is, because it is easy to clean crystal, people simply wash it with water and don't use soap to clean the glass, and that's why the glass might be not as clean as the steel glass, because the steel glass needs to be cleaned properly. But if you clean the crystal glass as properly as the steel glass, then it is cleaner than the steel glass. So what I want to say is that there were beliefs in our society, and Anadimukta, like Naran Mama, would always come back and give us the right understanding around those beliefs. So Anadimukta Parampuja Naran Mama used to say that caste is based on our deeds. If we are into education, meditation, worship, we are a Brahmin, and likewise for other castes. The blind belief in the Indian society to determine caste by birth is not the right way to look at it. Scientists have determined that the probability of leadership genes not being passed from parent to child is not negligible. It is quite substantial. So determining caste by birth may not be completely true in this age. The second level of determination comes from our natal charts, Janma Kundli, and in our Hindu natal chart, there is a mention of Varna or caste, and it determines what characteristics we are actually born with. So it is very possible that one is born in a Brahmin family, is a Vaishya by natal chart, and Shudra by deeds. Natal chart determines what we are born with. However, the natal chart is governed by the planets and constellations, and that's where the limit is. It does not take us beyond that. Have we ever heard in any religion or culture that the gods have a caste? Or for that matter, ghosts or animals have a caste? No. So that is the limit of this distinction. It is only in humans, and had some merits earlier, but those merits have been compromised. And even when it had merits, it was a guideline, not a rule. The other thing in the society was no intercaste marriage, and there were two merits to it. First, it made sure the genetic code was not in conflict. This is when the code wasn't compromised, right? And second, it gave a basic idea about the value system of the families involved and ensured the families could get along and the bride and groom could get along in terms of values. it is better than getting into a complete unknown. So it had 2 merits, and that's about it. In spiritual world, the caste system does not exist. Soul or any higher entity does not belong to any caste. In fact, even the gender discrimination goes away beyond Mood Purush. Many devotees across all religions have been born into all different castes. Anadi Muktraj Param Puja Narayan Mama took birth in Lohana community. Anadi Muktraj Param Puja Bapa Shri and Parvat Bhai were from Patel or Kanbi community. Anadi Muktraj Param Puja Somchand Bapa was from Vaishya community. If caste was so important, why would Anadi Mukta be born in other castes than Brahmin? Sriji Maharaj stayed at Sagram Waghi's place and even wore their clothes. Why would he do that if caste system was so important in spiritualism? Abji Bapa Shri mentioned in Bhuj that Ava Brahman ne na jamadiye to shun paap lage when Brahmins were acting up. Meaning, would it hurt if we don't feed such Brahmins? So Sriji Maharaj and Anadi Mukta have never supported caste system. They've gone to the extent of saying that it is okay to eat food from a Satsangi Shudra than from a non-Satsangi Brahmin. And here the meaning of Shudra and Brahmin is by birth. And Satsangi actually doesn't limit to someone who is believing in Lord Swaminarayan, but someone who is good by deeds and is a Brahmin by deeds but not by birth. Because today's world has changed and there are many people who are nice human beings but are not followers of Lord Swaminarayan. In fact, when I was in school, and I'm sure a lot of us would remember, those who studied in Gujarat, when I was in school, Lord Swaminarayan was mentioned as a social reformer in history textbooks. And he worked tirelessly to abolish vices like caste system. So after all this, it begs the question, why do we have the distinction mentioned in Sikshapatri? If one reads it carefully, the distinction is mentioned twice. Once about what type of kanthi to wear and what type of tilak to do, that's it. And second time about what each individual should do. So what is wrong in asking one who is inclined towards knowledge and education to do that? What is wrong in asking one inclined towards business to do business? It is all about behaving according to your orientation. Secondly, while the shlok in Sikshapatri are universal, when it was written, the caste system was extremely strongly followed. So an objective outlook would not have been appreciated. But if we read Life and Times of Lord Swaminarayan or any of his Anadi Mukta, we will not find them discriminating against anyone. This limited belief and stringent boundaries around the classification have been built by human intellect, not by God. So let's get out of that range of 0 to 100 and think infinity to infinity. If we do not do that, we will remain bound and stuck by the bindings of this world and not progress spiritually. All the attachments and ego related to caste, birth, creed, gender, will have to be given up to attain ultimate redemption. So that was a long digression on caste system. Let's move back to our main topic of the series and interaction on soul, body and mind. To quickly recap, there are 24 elements in our body. 5 fundamental elements: earth, water, fire, wind and space or sky. 5 senses of action: tongue, hands, feet, excretory organs, reproductive organs. 5 senses of perception: ear, skin, eyes, tongue and nose. 5 quintessence: sound, touch, vision, taste and olfactory. And 5 inner organs: mind, intellect, subconscious mind and ego. So this is what we had discussed last week. So let's move forward. There are mainly 3 types of bodies: the physical or the gross body, the subtle or the astral body, and the causal body. The physical body is what is visible to the naked eye. And the 5 elements and 10 senses belong to the physical body. So, physical body consists of those 15 elements from the 24. Physical body is associated with the awakened state of mind and is predominantly sattva gun oriented. So, there are 3 types of gun, and during our course of interaction we'll continue talking about those, but the sattva gun is all that's related to knowledge and peace and purity. Rajas is one that is related to all the desires and action and activity. And then tamas is all about ignorance and arrogance. So, physical body is associated with awakened state of mind, and awakened state of mind is predominantly sattva gun oriented. And it is said to be the effect. So there is a cause and there is an effect. And we'll talk more about cause and effect as well as we continue through our series. But the awakened state of mind is an effect of the sthiti avastha of Vairaj Purush, which is then further attributed to Pradyumna or Sattva Ahankar in the next level of hierarchy by Bapa Shri. So we'll go through the hierarchy, but very quickly to understand what I'm saying is there are souls or human beings, then there are Dev and Daitya, then there is the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, then there is Vairaj Purush, and then there is a level that is called Ahankar or 3 types of Ahankar, and they are also called Aniruddha, Pradyumna and Sankarshan. So that's the level that we are talking about here, is that it is the effect of the state of operation or maintenance from the 3 states of creation, operation and destruction. It is the state of operation of Pradyumna or Sattva Ahankar. That is what Bapa Shri has explained. The lifespan of physical body is determined by number of breaths. So how many breaths will you take? So if someone is, a fast breather, then Ultimately, what that person is doing is reducing the lifespan. So that is why there is a lot of importance and emphasis on control on breathing in ancient Chinese and Indian cultures. Now, residing in the physical body is the subtle body or the astral body. The 5 quintessence and 4 inner organs belong to the astral body. 15 elements of physical body also exist in the astral body, but in a subtle form. So it's not visible to the naked eye. Astral body or subtle body is in a gaseous form, or it's gaseous in nature. Subtle body is associated with dreaming state of mind, and that state is predominantly rajas oriented, and it is the effect of the creation state of Aniruddha or Rajas Ahankar. Ghosts, that is Bhuta Prets, are souls without physical body. They are mentally disoriented like our dreams are, but are usually governed by a strong will or a desire, and they try to fulfill it through others. So kids are, and even grown-ups sometimes are afraid of ghosts, but don't be. They are just defocused souls who don't have a body, a visible body. Since the subtle body is gaseous in nature, it is able to travel through a lot of physical barriers and distances. A lot of out-of-body experiences. So we all read about, somebody was in a surgery and had an out-of-body experience. So a lot of these experiences are nothing but the subtle body leaving the physical body and then looking back at itself. And the subtle body is connected to the physical body through what looks like a silver cord. Now, I haven't seen the silver cord, and my knowledge doesn't come a whole lot from experience, but those who are in meditation and can see these connections say that there is a kind of a silver cord that connects these two for the lifespan of the physical body. At the end of life of the physical body, the cord breaks and the subtle body moves on to the next physical body or stays in the state of subtle body till the fruits of karma render another physical body to the soul. So this concept can be best explained by, the other day we had taken an example of a laptop, so I'll continue with that example. And it's like once your laptop gets old and outdated, we buy another, but then we have to take a backup. We take a backup on an external hard drive, and then whenever we buy another laptop, we transfer all that data back on the laptop, new one. So that's exactly a concept that's happening when the subtle body leaves the physical body and then gains another one. So there is a post-death ritual in Hinduism where there is a silver cord that's used to cut something. I've seen these rituals. And the fact that the subtle body is connected to the physical body through a silver cord kind of tells us the relevance of that ritual. Also, sometimes in our dreams we meet a dear one and we get up thinking, wow, that was real. It felt so real. It felt like I actually met that person. And it could be that the two subtle bodies actually did meet. Because in our dreaming state of mind, the subtle bodies could go out and travel and then come back because they are tied to the physical body with the cord. Here I would like to clarify that when we see mukta in our dream, they are in their divine form all the time. Just as the boundaries of physical body do not apply to them, the boundaries of subtle body also do not apply to them. Now, whatever we shared here, Sriji Maharaj has explained physical and subtle body in Sarangpur 14th Vachnamritam, and 3 states of mind are described in Sarangpur 6th and Gadada Pratham 65th Vachnamritam. So, whoever wants to read further on this Vachnamritam, where you can find information around. Now, sometimes we get too tired. We go into a state of deep sleep, where we become completely unaware of our surroundings. This state of deep sleep is predominantly tamas-oriented and is an effect of distraction state of sankarshan or masahangar. And this state is associated with what is known as causal body. Causal body is very interesting. For those interested, there is literature available, so you can read more if you'd like, but the explanation given by Anadi Muktaraj Param Pujya Nar Mama and passed on to me by Param Pujya Jitu Kaka is that it is one of the best and all-encompassing explanation. And for understanding the causal body, the way they have explained it, let's first delve a little bit into what we know about inner workings of the brain. There is a lot of brain research going on these days, and there are some findings or discoveries which are very interesting. So in interest of time, we will only talk about a few relevant findings. So at a high level, we know that there is a cerebral cortex, there is a cerebellum, there is a limbic system, and there is medulla oblongata as parts of our brain, and then there are neurons within the brain, which are the brain cells. The limbic system has multiple parts to it, and one such part is called amygdala, which is believed to be the seat of all desires and emotions. So that is where the desire arises, and then it travels through other parts of the brain, and then it comes to our intelligence, and science has actually discovered all that. There is another interesting part of the limbic system, which is the hippocampus, and that is considered to be the long-term memory store. And science is progressing day by day. Every week there is a new finding, and there is research going on to refute these two beliefs, but this is what we know today. We also know that intelligence is determined not by the number of neurons in the brain, but by the number of connections between the neurons. It has also been researched that new connections between neurons keep forming, and they are formed by repetitive learning or by traversing the same neural path again and again. Another finding is that when an experience is stored in our memory, that entire experience is stored in one neuron. So it is not like the sense of smell is stored in one and the sense of taste is stored in another. Say, we relish a great food dish. So it has a good visual effect to it. It looks good. It smells good. And then we eat it. It tastes good. That entire experience is stored in one neuron. It's not stored in separate neurons. And that is why when we get a similar smell of a food that we have relished before, we are reminded of that entire experience. So a taste can activate that neuron and remind us of the experience. The smell can remind us of that same experience. So it is all stored in one neuron. And lastly, there has been a research done where something becomes a part of long-term memory, and this is very interesting. Something becomes a part of long-term memory only if the emotions from amygdala are feeding into it. This is one of the latest discoveries in the field of brain research that has been published so far. I'm sure there is a lot going on that's not published. And it is very interesting. This principle of formation of long-term memories is very interesting because all across in Hinduism, it has been explained to us to remain non-attached. If we are emotionally not attached to an experience, it does not get stored in our long-term memory. So let's take this one level further. And I want to emphasize that, the man and chit, and they're all very, very subtle. So science probably hasn't even understood what these are, but it's a relativity, right? So let's take it all one further level up and call this subtle sentient awareness of desires in amygdala as man or mind. The long-term memory storage in hippocampus as chit. The neuron connections through repetitive learning as manan and chintan. Storing an entire experience in one neuron as initial formation of a sanskar, and we mentioned sanskar a little bit earlier today. And sanskar is therefore an impression of experiences and desires on a chit. So once a desire arises, it moves through the mind, intellect, etc. for fulfillment, and the memory and impression of it is formed in the chit as a sanskar because of manan and chintan. These desires, if unfulfilled, or sometimes if fulfilled where there is associated fruits of karma, takes an extremely subtle but tangible form and clings to the soul through the electromagnetic energy. This form is not visible through whatever science has discovered yet, but it exists. So since the process of their creation is being supported by scientific discoveries, the next step as described by Anadi Muktrat Param Pujya Narayan Mama must also be true. And therefore, there must in fact be that tangible, subtle form. And that subtle form clinging to the soul through electromagnetic energy. This collection of desires or the fruits of karma that cling to the soul is what is called the causal body. So we went into all this discussion to understand what causal body is. I mentioned that it's very interesting, and that is what the causal body is. It's called a causal body because it is the cause for the soul to take birth. And attain physical and subtle bodies. And this body is associated with deep sleep state of mind, as we talked about a few minutes back. There is a fourth type of body which is not described in a lot of places, and it is called a great causal body. So in the spiritual hierarchy, there is a perishable and non-perishable world. Causal body is made up of desires of the perishable world, and great causal body is made up of desires of non-perishable worlds. That is the world beyond Mood Purush. So as we walk through different levels, we'll understand what these perishable and non-perishable worlds are, but the distinction, the line of distinction is at Mood Purush. And the great causal body is associated with the transcendent state, also called Turyavastha, and it is the effect of Mood Maya. And that is the one that is the most difficult to get rid of. So let me recap in 1 minute. Today we spent some time talking about caste system and continued our conversation on the types of bodies and the states of mind and their cause and origination. Next week we'll talk more about senses and inner organs, and if time permits we will walk into what is moksha, or what is liberation and why liberation. So with that, Vishal bhai, I'll hand it over to you. Jai Swaminarayan, everyone.